afoul of the law, and decent people lived in fear. That is, until a force for justice appeared in the leather-winged guise of Batman. Eventually, he saw the need for a partner in crime fighting, a squire who would help him in his caped crusade. Thus was born Robin. Together they served as an ever-vigilant reminder to the Gotham underworld that no criminal was safe as long as the dynamic duo was on the job. It came time for the Robin to leave the nest. The Dark Knight again had to defend Gotham alone. The greatest threat to Gotham was the Joker. The very antithesis of Batman. Who ultimately brought about his own demise. With his most fearsome foe vanquished, he was able to focus on more important matters. After all, even crime fighters need love. And so it came to be that the Bat and the Cat prowled the Gotham Knights together.
How about that for a video intro? Could anybody anywhere find anything more fitting than that? A love letter to the Silver Age and the transition it shows us going from Golden Age to Silver Age and all that was Brave and the Bold. Especially even in that little clip we got there. Golden Age with the, you know what I mean? The classic Bob Kane costume on, and you see him transition into the Dick Sprang, Sheldon Moldoff. I could go on forever. And it's so pertinent. What is this doing on the screen? No. Today we're not covering the Golden Pyramid Asian man. Oh no. Today we're covering something very special. Ladies and gentlemen, Earthlings, it's Earth 2 time. That's right, Earth 2. The place we all know and love so much. And we're going to cover this not in the Golden Age perspective like we just seen there in our fellow Batman, but in the Bronze Age sense, just pre-crisis. And when I'm talking about Earth 2, I'm talking about, like I said, TWO. Not this Earth 2, Earth Deuce stuff. Okay, not this. This post-Flashpoint redo. This is basically Earth 2C, if you will. Or just Earth Deuce, as I like to call it. Not that it wasn't bad. The first 19 issues of this were quite good, actually. James Robinson, him and Nicola Scott actually did a hell of a job restarting over the whole Justice Society of America thing. And then once Tom Taylor got behind the wheel, it went downhill fast. Tom Taylor doing what Tom Taylor does best, right? Killing off good stories. But if you ever get a minute or a time, pick these up for $1. These ain't bad. But once you see James Robinson's name no longer on the comic, like you do right there. He did up through the first annual, but I think he did 19 issues. Stop right there because you're going to be sadly disappointed. With that being said, since we got all the Bat and the Cat wedding and whatnot, right? New York Times just apparently spoiled it for everybody. Probably because they were told to, knowing how the fake news media works. But I figured we'd cover the original Bat in the Cat wedding, which is the Earth 2 Batman and Catwoman wedding, and their progeny, right? They consummated that marriage, and they get this fine-looking Paul Levitz character you see over here on the right, the Huntress. Figure we dive into some of that. My good buddy Loki there wanting to say hi. But before we do, let's take a little detour and take a trip down memory lane and look at some of the other older, original Batman weddings to women who weren't Catwoman. We will get here. We will get here. It might just take me a minute or two because I want to take us on this little detour. But this here is the feature, the original Bat and the Cat wedding, secret origin of their daughter, the Huntress, Helena Wayne. Now for that detour. The most current Catwoman Batman wedding. This image had been floating around a couple months back. This is actually from Nightwing Volume 1, and it was once again an imaginary story or something happening in Catwoman's imagination, if I remember it right. So if you've seen this and wondered what the heck, that's what this is. The other current one I found is over here on your left. We'll talk about that in a minute, but going all the way back to the Golden Age, the beginning of Earth 2 Batman number 79 in 1953, Bride of the Batman. And you can see right there, middle, center, bottom, good old Dick Sprang art, if there ever was any, huh? That was the first Batman wedding I could find, and I believe, once again, that was chalked up to an imaginary story. This over here, the Charlie Fish stuff, from Batman Brave and the Bold. I don't know if that's Volume 1 or Volume 2 of the comic book series, but Charlie Fish has been doing such a good job on these, on all these animated books. Charlie is the master behind Scooby-Doo Team Up. We'll just cover this real quick. Let's see here. This right here I think was even nominated for an Eisner, or sure should have been. I know it got praise in the CSNs, that's for sure. Where else are you going to find Deadman, the Phantom Stranger, and Spectre in a comic together? Nowhere else but Scooby-Doo Team Up, that's where. Just figure I'd slip that in as a side note for $2.99. These books are hella fun. You get all the classic featured appearances. Even Birds of Prey came along last month or the month before. And there's our girl right there. Even though that's more of the post-crisis Helena Bertinelli, daughter of the crime family. And there was quite the memorable here Scooby-Doo team up with none other than, that's right, Batmite. He even made an appearance for an issue. Just good stuff. Side note, pick them up. Pick one or two up if you see them. I think you'll be pretty happy once you do. If not, you can always come back here and complain. But over here, this at the top center, it's about arrows. Hits Batman and Wonder Woman with some sort of arrow. I don't really remember the specifics of it because I read it in the store. But I thought it was interesting because eros is the Greek word. It's where we get the word arrow. Okay, and eros is the Greek equivalent of Cupid. So it predates Cupid. Cupid, you know, that funny, cute little creature that shoots the Valentine's Day arrows and makes people fall in love. That's where we get the literal word arrow. So, you know, joke's on us there. Moving forward to 1959, right at the breaking point of the Silver Age, even there in 56. 59 here, she gets, they get, what's her name? Kathy Kane and Bruce Wayne get married in 1959. Look at that classic Sheldon Moldoff cover. Isn't that dope? The purple bat logo, Batman 122. And I stuck here in the middle on the top, July 56. I think it's Eduardo Hamilton, the creator of Kathy Kane. She first appeared in Detective Comics 233. And 3 years plus later, they end up getting married. Or do they? because not even 10 issues later, we get over here at your far right, Batman 131, the second Batman and Robin team up, little Batman and Son action, and Dick's put on the cowl, Battle of the Cowl, and it's their kid, their son actually has become the next Robin. Now, the funny thing about all this is I got this Batman Incorporated thing here at the bottom. I didn't just stick that there to fill in space. In the 4th or 5th issue of, in my opinion, the greatest Batman hardcover you can buy, there's a Kane affair flashback to this whole love triangle that these guys have here. Because these are considered Silver Age stories, and that's who our Batman transcends from. The Earth 1 Batman, right? So, what you're looking at here gets talked about in Batman Incorporated. And but what am I trying to say here? Is actually, Morrison wrote it, and this was, we'll say, like his 3rd chapter into his Batman run. The Silver Age was a huge backbone, and I guess you could call it the antecedent for a lot of what he did throughout his Batman run. It was unbelievable. It's like, just thinking about it makes me want to go read it. So that's why all this comes together. And like we said, we're on the subject of weddings anyway. More imaginary stories, though. That's how they were once classified. And it's funny here, the one on the right, Batman 131, this was actually penned by Alfred himself at the end of the comic. You find out it's some kind of fictional diary that Alfred was writing or something, where he's just kind of theorizing and, writing poetry to himself in story form, more or less. But, like I said, pick this sucker up right here. 260 pages, it's like 20 or 30 bucks. It takes place right after Batman gets back into the cowl, and right in the first 2 issues, you get him and Catwoman going at it in Japan. And one of the main artists on the book here, Finch, and actually Finch does, I think, the opening one-shot, but Yannick Paquette, he did some of the better metal one-shots. Does a real thick lace-line Batman. He's an awesome artist. I wish he'd draw almost all the Batman comics. Him, Daniels, and Finch, if they went at it forever, I'd be just fine. But pick this up. Here's some of that Paquette, or is it? Man, that's not how you say his name. Yannick Paquette. Either way, his thick-lined awesomeness. Look at that art. Yeah, boy. Look at that. These are an absolute must. Moving forward. Thick lace line art, maybe, is what I'm trying to say. But next up on the docket here, we got Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane 59. Now, this is from the winter of 64, 65. The first time I read this, I laughed so hard. What happened here is Bruce gets married to Lois. And the whole thing occurs because Superman over here, and you're looking at Kurt Swan's best imitation of him having a stroke. I mean, look at that guy. Bruce is supposed to watch over Lois when Superman goes on a mission. He gets back from the mission a little too quickly and starts spying on them. Lois thinks Bruce is really Superman, falls in love for him, and so these two goofballs decide to play a trick on Lois and set up a whole fake wedding for her. It's absolutely hilarious. Lois will never know she almost married Batman. I mean, look at that drawing right there. It's just an absolute crazy story. It's a short story. Jor-El appears in this same issue as well. And the sad thing is this is just the beginning of this. Because not even 30 issues later, that these two rascals are at it again. I mean, unbelievable, huh? What are they thinking? They think it's funny to play cruel jokes on Lois by, tricking her that Bruce is Batman and then having Superman show up at the wedding. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Just imaginary stories, I guess. That's what they are. They're imaginary stories. And a funny note also is the Silver Age Catwoman, who's about to get married tomorrow, first appeared in the issues directly in between these two. Just a little side note, I suppose. But yeah, these imaginary stories. At this point, we should almost take a time out and let my good buddy over there, SalazarKnight, tell you a thing or two about imaginary stories in DC's Silver Age. And I believe this was one of the last 12-cent comics as well. So with that being said, present to you another imaginary story wedding.
In a Batman costume, and then he tries to steal the Batmobile. Joker's plan doesn't work, of course, and he is captured by Batman. This would be the second Joker appearance since the changes started, and the first one done with a new team. Bringing back Riddler proved to be a good idea, and so Julius Schwartz decided to use the Joker in a story written by John Broome and illustrated by Carmine Infantino, and the result was a success. Now, right here comes something very familiar to the internet. You may recognize this picture, right? This panel became a popular meme in 2008, but it was published first during the Silver Age in World's Finest 153. This comic features an imaginary story in which Bruce Wayne becomes Batman because he believes that his father was murdered by Superman. Everything else is normal in this universe, including Batman adopting Dick Grayson, and in turn he becomes Robin. However, when Robin learns about Batman's hatred towards Superman, he tries to make Batman understand that he might be wrong, and that's how all of this started. Batman couldn't allow his partner to believe that Superman was good, even if in the end he was. This was a very weird, arrogant, and stupid Batman moment, but it makes sense, because it is just an imaginary story. And believe me, the Silver Age has hundreds of those. Like, for example, did you know that Batman and Superman got married to Lois Lane and Kathy Kane? And that each of them had a son? Well, it all happened in World's Finest 154, where we are introduced to the Super Sons. It's basically that, the adventures of the young Superman Jr. and Batman Jr. You see, this is my main problem with the Silver Age. Too much weird stuff. Oh wait, I forgot there's a new Super Sons comic book right now.
He does a phenomenal job. He'll tell you all about how weird the Silver Age is and how messed up some of these imaginary stories are. And I'm going to plug him right now, actually. This guy is the single best comic book documentarian on the entire internet as far as I'm concerned. Everybody comes here because they like Batman or The Wedding or Catwoman, either way. If you're into comics, you need to come here and give this guy some love, because not only will you have a good time, he'll teach you something. We're talking HBO-style documentaries where he breaks down entire eras of Batman's history, going year by year by year. I never had more fun than I did with all these wacky Silver Age stories. In the far left down here, you see Zerenar. That might look familiar to anybody who's read R.I.P. He'll tell you all about it. So with all that being said, make sure you show this man some love, because he's probably the best there is at doing what we all like to enjoy, Batman comics. So check him out. And the presentation, I should say, of those comics. Can't talk today. But either way, go check this guy out. You will not regret it. Now, before we dive into the feature here, everyone needs to know about Earth 2, and these events are just pre-crisis Bronze Age events that focus on the Justice Society of America and characters like Batman, who's really the Golden Age version of Batman, who was kind of unretconned, depending on how you look at it, or retconned after World War II. These are pre-World War II characters brought back after the war. Thus, there was two Earths. The post-World War II, 1956, Flash Barry Allen in the red suit Earth, which was more successful and more science-y. And the original Golden Age Earth. What you're looking at here is shots from different crisis features. And my point is, after every one of these crises, there's always some sort of wavelength type of instrumentation type thing, I guess. Like I said, I can't. It reconstitutes the Earths. And that being said, for the Golden Age Earth, after every one of these crises in one form or another, whether it's Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, like we've seen in 52 on the final issue of 52, the Earths reconstitute themselves. So sometimes you'll have overlapping characters, like 2 Batmans, 2 Huntresses, and 2 Justice Leagues, with the original being the Justice Society of America. And a good place to read about a lot of these stories and how could you say it, get it all down for better understanding, is in a lot of the DC anthology series that came out in the Bronze Age, where they went back and reestablished a lot of the Golden Age continuity. Even pre-crisis, as you can see here, the great heroes of the Golden Age are back. Superman, the older version with the gray hair, who never could really fly until probably even up to Infinite Crisis, because he used to leap tall buildings in a single bound. This was one of the comics here that brought back those Golden Age characters, and this is after World War II, even though the content we're about to cover is just pre-crisis during the Bronze Age. This, as well as Flash of Two Worlds. Flash 129 is when the 2 Flashes bumped into one another. I meant Flash 123. Flash 129, I think, is the first appearance of Abracadabra, so I always get confused. But this is when the first Golden Age character returned on the DC continual timeline post-World War II, and yet still pre-crisis. But like how I was saying, even after, like this here in the crisis, when buildings Earths were literally wiped away and this whiteness spread of the Anti-Monitor, synthesizing all these worlds into one world, which became New Earth. That's what happened as the Bronze Age ended, or Copper Age actually ended, which is a small era in between the Crisis and the Bronze Age. And it's a lot of fun. That's another way you could describe it. The best part about it is figuring it out for yourself. And it's also why you see so many homage covers, you could call them like this, in comics like Multiversity. The era we're about to focus on is the late Bronze Age, Copper Age era, just pre-crisis, where they went back to those Golden Age characters and did more modern stories and modern tweaking with those characters, and even killed some of them off. This right here, Brave and the Bold 197, is the autobiography of Bruce Wayne. It can be found in a lot of Batman Greatest Stories Ever Told anthology collections, the trades. And this focuses on the Earth 2 Batman, who was the original Golden Age Batman. And there he is with his wife, Catwoman, who first appeared in Batman #1. And speaking of Batman #1, the Joker also appeared in that very first 1940 issue. And there is the Golden Age Earth 2 Joker, a modern version of him. Is that awesome or what? I also want to note that this 1982 Superman family anthology comic focused on the wedding of Batman and of Batman and Catwoman, the original Golden Age versions, even though it was sort of a flashback to it in detail, because this being a comic from 1981 had already been talked about in the comic we're about to feature today. And this is them right here getting married. Sometimes I wonder if DC didn't always keep track of everything the way they do today. Like, this was already out there, and someone had forgot that in 77 they had already done a version of this marriage. And this is interesting here, because Alfred, who first appeared in Batman 16, was originally named Alfred Beagle. And that's why it says here, most of us know him as Alfred Pennyworth. The Earth 2 Alfred is named Beagle, not Pennyworth. But yeah, this comic did come later, but it did need to be noted that there were two comics that focused on this wedding, even though there were years in between them, this being the one of the latter, the bottom of it. And this right here is kind of funny. It's a weird story about Catwoman's brother. He was going to be the king of cats. And we could save that for another story where we focus on the Joker of Earth 2. Superman Batman, one of the better modern runs in comic book history, also had an issue where they focused on the Earth 2 Huntress and Power Girl, the original Supergirl. Look at her. Wow, huh? And this was a post-crisis issue. That's why I say that the timelines always reconstitute out there in the multiverse, especially Earth 2, TWO. And now we have this newer version post-Flashpoint with the new 52, Earth Deuce. So it's like an Earth 2A and an Earth 2B. Or maybe even C. And after an extensive detour, I hope we learned a little something. Here we are. Another great DC anthology series, DC Superstars, which was over before the last wedding issue we looked at even came out. The series had ended. And like all good DC anthologies, they always reprint some sort of classic material. And now and again with newer material, which brings us to the feature and our subject at hand, Secret Origin of the Huntress, and the original first appearance of that Earth 2 Batman, the Bat and the Cat wedding. And don't roll your eyes at me. I'm just going to note it one more time for the noobs. The Birds of Prey Huntress from the epic, once so beloved Simone and Ed Bennis run. Right there is Helena Bertinelli, or Helena Bertinelli, also seen in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. That's the New Earth version of Huntress, the modern version. After the Earths were synthesized together, this lovely little damsel, the daughter of a mob boss, was born. Just a modern version of the old one with a different origin story and a different cut to the costume. Many of you who don't know about the Birds of Prey are going to be familiar with her because she appeared in Hush, the classic Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee massive illustrative hit from probably a decade back. But once again, that's not our Huntress. Because this is the original Huntress. And yeah, there was a Golden Age Huntress too, who was a villain, as I understand it, with the Injustice Society. Barbara Brooks the Crook. And there might have been one that appeared in one issue of Aquaman way back when in the Silver Age. It might have been Aquaman 26. I had forgot about her. Without those stupid black and white phone books, I don't think I would have ever encountered her, period. Here's the original Secret Origin sketches to the all-new Huntress. Collapsible pistol grip crossbow, fires tranquilizer darts on her calf there. Joe Stanton did the sketches. Some heroic legends end in a moment of triumph, others in tragedy, but some legends never die. You gotta love these Earth 2 stories. By Paul Levitz. And I'm going to let you guys add it to read it. I should also note that when this comic went on sale, it's not considered the first appearance of the Huntress for some stupid reason, even though the comic that is considered her first appearance was on sale the same week. All-Star Comics 69. They both went on sale the same week, and for some reason, that's the first appearance. This is the Secret Origin. But a lot of times, first appearances aren't Secret Origins, but when they come out on the same week, they're both first appearances. They don't have to both be Secret Origins. But see, right here, they touch on that two Earths theory. Or it ain't even a theory, is it? It's the two Earths reality. I just ain't with it today. But there are many similarities as well on both worlds. A Batman fought a Catwoman. Yet on Earth 2, that battle began in the year 1940. Batman number 1, first Joker, first Catwoman. And ended when a reformed Catwoman surrendered to Gotham police. And years later, Bruce was waiting for her. And you see, she was at the Gotham Penitentiary, not Arkham Asylum. And the stray bullets hit Selena and she falls. Interesting to note right there from Ballantine Books. Ballantine is a satanic holiday. Strange, huh? And only a couple years after Selena died, Bruce died as well. In Adventure Comics 462 was the end of the Earth 2 Golden Age Batman's chapter. And on a final note here, for more on Helena Wayne, the Huntress, come right here to this website blog. They do an exceptional job if you're looking for Bronze Age, more modern, Golden Age continuity. They tackle all that right here in detail. So anybody talking about Earth 2 this or Earth 2 that should really make note of this website. Filled with articles and timelines and what comics cover what Golden Age characters, and it's all more modern. Not, they're not telling you to go read 1940 comics. This is the pre-crisis stuff. Late Bronze Age, Copper Age, pre-crisis stuff, and even a little bit into the modern DC, post-crisis, post a bunch of crises, as a matter of fact, where things are hinted at. Because like I say, Earth 2 is always reconstituted out there in the multiverse somewhere. But yeah, this is an absolute phenomenal place to come if you want to learn more about the awesomeness of Earth 2. Everything's listed here in great detail. The Last Days of the Justice Society special, an absolute must-read. And then Huntress was featured in Wonder Woman comics as a backup for quite some time around the 300s here. So if you stuck around with me this long, there's a little payoff at the end of the rainbow. With all that being said, you know which YouTube channels to subscribe to. Fivefold Understanding channel right here. My boy SalazarKnight, who does the best Batman documentaries anywhere, period, on both Earths. And right here. She'd almost call this the Golden Age blog. But she's a Huntress fan. With all that being said, the saga continues.